Human rights lawyer Karina van Wyk of the Legal Assistance Centre was hesitant to speak to me about this case in fear of jeopardizing ongoing investigations. But here's what she shared on the progress made thus far in seeking some kind of justice for Joan.
In short, we received this letter from a family member, a friend, that was requesting assistance because this person had been put into jail, had been in jail for 2 months without being detained or charged. She's detained, but she's not been charged for whatever reason. They're keeping her and they're not releasing her either. She's been, at least the allegation is that she'd been assaulted while being in prison or detained. And yeah, I think when I got the information, obviously as a human rights organization, this is the kind of thing that you know you need to step on. But when I'd been there and I'd gotten information as to how many people had actually come to her rescue but had left her just there, you know, either suspecting that she's lying or either not willing to take on the matter for that matter, for whatever fears and things that could possibly be out there. Not exactly an excuse, because as Namibia, as a country with our human rights aspirations and what ideas for the future, you know, we needed to take action. Whether it was a true story, whether it was half true, whether it was a lie, there were some serious allegations made and people were just quiet. You know, human trafficking is a very sensitive issue at the moment, and Namibia cannot afford to be placed back on that bar of being suspected of being part of such a syndicate. So we made a few threats. We spoken to the embassies. They'd already been there, but they'd not done anything. So we heard from her, from this girl, what she wanted, and she just wanted to go home. So we started organizing or arranging for her to get home. Well, I'm not entirely at ease to say anything because we're not a criminal organization. We don't do investigations. I do want to believe that the Interpol is involved in investigations. I also know of, I don't know what they call them, FOAC. It's a forensics organization, NGO organization that has got information. They're onto this business, or onto this issue of investigating whether this story is true or not, and whether there are in fact other women also in the same position. First of all, as a human being, I was shocked. I am a human being first and foremost. I am in Namibia. I thought Namibia was peaceful. I did not think trafficking was an issue in our country. Maybe as transit, but not where people are being trafficked here for sexual exploitation. It's scary, it's disturbing, and I'm not sure as a human being what or how or where to touch base or whatever the case may be. But as a human rights lawyer, I think this is a call for serious action from Namibia's side. We can either continue ignoring the fact that human trafficking exists and exists in Namibia and make it worse, or we can be the stopping point, especially in an African context. The station where this lady had been detained were very forthcoming. They were considerate, they were kind, and they were willing to assist. I'm afraid it was in the other stations that certain abuses was being reported and certain, well, inhumane treatment that is just not kosher. It's just not acceptable. The fact that even if you suspect that somebody's lying, you know, to use force to get evidence is not acceptable. That's one of the first things that were considered inhumane treatment, cruel inhumane treatment, from our first cases after the Constitution was drafted. That should not be in our police system anymore. We cannot force somebody. You cannot tie somebody's hands back. You've got no right unless you're going to charge them for something valid. And if you haven't charged them, what are you trying to get out of them? On what basis are you trying to get evidence? That's not acceptable. I believe this is a sensitive issue, and I think people out there that are doing investigations need to do what they can to try and break the syndicate. It's an international call, and I think it's serious enough for us to be alert and to be conscious of what's happening out there. And to report if you find anything suspicious, or if you see anything funny, or if you see foreigners, you know, in circumstances that are just not acceptable. I mean, whether it's, to report it. If you're suspicious, report it.
There are some very influential and unfortunately respected members of our society who revel in targeting the weak for their own gratification. Yes, they walk amongst us. They are our leaders, our fathers, and those who we entrust with our safekeeping. But it's a brand new day out here. The sheep in wolves' clothing really are wolves. This poor girl now lives in fear for her life. We spoke to Joan's friend Simon, who has confirmed that she's safely back home for now.
Yeah, she's doing good. She's going. Just now she is fine. She is fine now. She is doing good. She is with her brother. She is with her step-brother. For now, I can't say anything. I'm just saying thanks to everyone who contributed to. You know, there are some things you don't expect. You don't expect something to happen to someone when she does not know what she is going to meet there, but she was expecting something better for that. Now I can't say anything. She is going through stress. Yeah, like now she is a little bit stressed. I cannot talk about it because for now, even me, I'm so much worried for now. Yeah, because this one, you don't know whether this guy will still come for her. This guy will still try to look for her everywhere she goes. For now, I can't say anything for now. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. If they decide to come for her, maybe they still come for her.
As I mentioned earlier, we also notified the Ombudsman's office of this case, and we're yet to get a satisfactory answer from them on this matter. Even the police are doubting her story, and so it becomes clear that Joan and all the other women and girls that find themselves in her situation will just be another statistic.